Hi, my name is Margret Bosch. In this video, we are going to practice the use of Java arrays. Let's start by creating an integer array. I'm going to call it numbers. You can see a plural word because arrays include multiple elements. We're going to initialize my variable numbers with a new array. I'm going to use the new operator because Java arrays are reference types, so we need a new operator. And my new operator is followed by the type of the element, the rectangular bracket, and the size of my array. So in my case, 4 is the size, which means I'm going to create an integer array with 4 elements. Every time you create a new array in Java, all the elements are initialized with a default value. So in our case, all 4 elements are at that point 0. Now I would like to see that. I would like to print out all my elements from first to last to confirm that they really are 0. And rather than writing my for loop here in main, I'm going to create a method that is called print array. I'm going to create a method because I can anticipate already that I will want to print out my array more than once. So I'm going to declare it private because it's not intended for use outside of this class. It's going to be static because I want to use it directly in my static main method. It does not return any value. And of course it needs a descriptive name like print array, and I will need to pass the array that should be printed. So in my case this is an integer array and I just call it array. And when I print out my array, I want to go through all the elements starting at index 0 all the way up to the last index, which is 1 less than the length of my array. I write a for loop. I say for integer I is 0, my first element. My control variable is less than array length. And I'm going to update by 1 because I want to print each and every one of my array elements. And inside the body of my for loop, I'm going to print out the individual elements which are on position array index I. And at the end, when all the elements of my array have been printed, I want to conclude with a new line. So let's compile. Perfect. Before I run it, I want to call the method right here in main, and I want to print out my newly created array called numbers. Going to compile and run, and there it is. I can see all 4 elements are at this point 0. I want to change that. I would like my elements to have the values 2, 4, 6, and 8. So I could say numbers, position 0 is 2, numbers, index 1 is 4, numbers, index 2 is 6, and numbers, index 3 is 8. How does my updated array look like? I check that by printing it. I say print array numbers. Let's compile and run, and I can see my 0, 0, 0, 0 array has changed to a 2, 4, 6, 8 array. Let's do another example. This time I would like to include some user input. So I'm going to import the scanner. Just imagine we have a training program people run every morning, Monday through Friday, and then on the weekend they can enter all the miles they ran per day and we're going to calculate the total of miles they ran in the whole week. So I'm going to start by creating an instance of scanner. And I'm also going to create an array where I'm going to store my miles. I'm going to name my array miles, and it will be a new array of size 5. This way I will have an array element for each of the days Monday through Friday. Now I'm going to prompt the user to enter the miles for each of the days. I'm going to use a for loop to do that. I'm starting at 0. I continue as long as my I is less than miles length, and I increment by 1. And the first thing I'm going to do is to prompt the user. You can see that my control variable I starts at 0. I don't want to change this. This is perfect for our array index, which starts at 0. However, I don't want to ask the user how many miles he ran on day 0, because most people are used to start counting at 1. So I can make up for this difference by asking the user for the miles he ran on day I plus 1. Now I'm going to store the miles the user is going to enter in my array. I'm going to store them on the position I, and the user is going to enter input next int. That's how I'm going to read in the information from the keyboard. So once my for loop is completed, the user has been asked to enter the miles for 5 days, and all the values have been entered into the array miles. So here I'm going to use print array to display the different elements of my array miles. Let's compile and run. And here I'm prompted to enter my miles for day 1. I say this was 10, 7, 9, 11, and 8. And you can see the values have been stored in the array, and now they are printed out here side by side. The last thing I still need to do is to calculate the total and display the total to the user. So I'm going to create a variable called total. I initialize it with 0, and for each of my elements in my array, I'm going to add the element value to my total. And at the end, I'm going to print out the total. Let's compile and run. And here I'm prompted to enter miles on day 1. I say this was 9, 7, 12, 8, and 10. And you can see all the elements are stored in the array and printed out, and at the end the total is calculated and presented to the user.